I'm Willie from Leisure Travel Vans. Today we're going to show you how to winterize the RV with the Truma AquaGo Comfort Plus water heater. Okay, and some of the tools you're going to need is 2 gallons of RV non-toxic plumbing antifreeze, and an air chuck and some paper towel. What we're going to do is turn off the water pump, and we're going to turn off the water heater. This unit is equipped with a switch inside. I would recommend, if you have the switch inside, that you leave this switch on at all times. On the previous models, the switch was outside on the water heater itself, so you have to come out here and make sure you turn it off over here. We're going to depressurize the water line, so what I'm going to do is take the pressure off by opening up this faucet. And it can be any faucet, but I always prefer to do the kitchen one first. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the propane outside here in the utility compartment. We're also going to disconnect the city water connection right here. Okay, I'm going to go drain the freshwater tank right now. The Unity, Murphy bed, and FX have it underneath the floor outside. The twin bed, corner bed, and island bed, it's underneath the bed inside. Okay, the freshwater tank drain is right here. So what you want to do is open this up. And if it was mine, I would leave it open for the winter or however long you store it, so that if there's any water left in the tank, so it can drain. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to open up the water heater, and we're going to drain the water heater itself. So what we're going to do is open up the pressure relief valve, so there's no pressure in our lines. And then what we're going to do is open up this yellow easy drain lever, but make sure that the water is not too hot so that you'll get burned or scalded by this water. You open this up, you take out this screen, and then at this point you can close the water heater lever. The water is still coming out because the seal is in my hand. And this screen we will store inside in a warm, dry place, preferably in a dry place at least. So we usually leave it in the drawer of the coach. And all I do is put the screen filter in here in a plastic bag, and we leave it in here for the winter. It's stored in the drawer. So I'm going to go underneath there and turn the water heater bypass valves to bypass. So I'm going to close valves A, B, and E. That's bypass and water heater. The other 2 valves in the back, the one with the white hose on it is your drain, water tank drain, and the other one is your circulation line. So those 2, the one on the far right, valve C, leave that open, and valve D should remain closed. Okay, at this point we're going to take this filter out of the canister. So I got this tool right here, and that fits onto here. And you unscrew that. Then I have a little container in case I drip some water. We're going to put that underneath there. Then we're going to take the filter out of the canister and dump the water that's in the canister out of there. And before we put this back on, we want to make sure that this rubber ring is in place. Otherwise you'll have a leak. You tighten it up snug. My hand is good enough. Then we'll leave the filter in the sink so it can dry out, and that's because we're going to use it again later on in spring or whenever we decide to de-winterize our coach. What we're going to do is we're going to grab this hose off the blue winterization valve, and then what we're going to do is put this hose into a jug of non-toxic plumbing antifreeze. Put this into there. You turn this valve right here over to Winterize, and you make sure that your city water tank fill is on city water. Otherwise you'll be pumping it through your tank, and you don't want to get it into your tank. And that's also the same reason that we did the valves inside on the water heater. We want to make sure that we don't get any winterization fluid into the water heater. What we're going to do is we're going to turn on the water pump, and then we're going to go to each faucet, and we're going to make sure that we have pink stuff till we see pink stuff coming through. So make sure you do hot and cold at each faucet. There we go. And then you turn it to hot or cold and do the same thing. You do that at each faucet, like I said. And once you see the pink, you can turn it off. And again, the same way. I noticed that our pump was running inside and it wasn't getting any fluid, so we're going to replace this jug. So now we're going to winterize the toilet. Press on the lever till you see some pink stuff coming through there, which we're seeing right now. Also make sure you see some pink stuff coming through this little rinse hose here. Okay, so right now we're going to do the outside shower. Open that up. See the pink stuff coming? That's that one. And now we have it coming on the other hot and cold. And that is good for now. Now I'm going to go inside and turn off the water pump so that I can press this little button in on this behind the screen. We're just going to turn off the water pump. And as far as I'm concerned, up here we're done. Then we're going to go and take the pressure off the water line. So when I press that little button, the city water tank fill so that we don't blow the gasket out of there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take out this screen on the city water fill here. And then before we release this button, we want to make sure that the pump is turned off and the pressure has been released. If we don't do that first, the rubber seal inside that valve will blow out. So you want to make sure you do all that beforehand. Turn off the pump and release the pressure before you press this button. If you happen to have a second person inside, it would be nice to have somebody to operate the switch on the water pump so that we will burp the pump. It means pressing the on and off switch a few times just so you don't get too much pressure over here, and yet you want to have antifreeze coming out of here. And we're going to press in that little lever that's inside there, that little ball. As you can see, till we get fluid coming, we know we've released the water. And you replace the screen and put the cap back on. And what you might want to do is turn this valve back to normal flow. Okay, so valve D, which is the water line drain, which is right here, we want to open that up so whatever we have in the line so that can drain out. And now the next step is to remove the canister again. You want to drain the fluid out of the canister. There's no reason for the fluid to stay in there all winter. And you can just dump this down the sink. Again, make sure your rubber ring is there. Just put this back in place. And at this point, you want to make sure it's tight. Okay, so at this point, what is recommended that you wipe out the sink, all the sinks and toilet, so that you don't get staining in the toilet from the winterization fluid. What we want to do is want to make sure that our gray and black tanks are empty. If you have the optional macerator pump, you want to take out this hose, remove this cap, and open up your gray and black tanks. Your black should always be opened up first, and you want to drain that. Turn on your pump until, once this quits pumping, until your black tank is empty. And once that is done, you open up your gray, so that your gray will help rinse the black. Make sure that your tanks are completely empty when you're done. Because this is a new unit, I'm draining this inside, but once you have had the unit, make sure you go to a sewer dump to dump your tanks. And then you turn off the water pump, but do not let the pump run dry. Preferably there should be some fluid in there. Although these are waterless P-traps, you should still dump some antifreeze down each sink to make sure that each pipe got some. About a cup, give or take, would be good. And you do that at each sink. Once you've done that, and I have a little bit of extra left here, because we have the macerator pump on this coach, we want to make sure that the pump gets enough winterization so that doesn't freeze on us. So I'm going to dump that down the bathroom sink. So you should probably dump an extra 2 cups in there if it has a macerator pump. If you don't have the macerator pump, you will have the hose that comes along with the coach, which is stored up between the 2 baggage compartments, and you can hook that up there where this pump is now connected. Because we dumped a little bit of extra antifreeze in there, we just want to make sure that we pump that out of the system yet too. There, and that should do it. We're going to close the tanks, and then we're going to put the cap back onto the sewer hose, and then we're going to put the sewer hose back in place. And as far as draining the tanks and that all goes, we're done with that. The only other thing we need to do is blow some air into the black tank flush, just so that we make sure that we don't have no water trapped in there. So I have this connection, which I'm going to put onto here. Before we put air into the tank, we want to make sure that their valves are open so we don't by accident blow too much air into the tank and therefore pressurizes backwards into the sinks. So right now I'm going to hook this up and my valves are open, and that's how you have to make sure you do it. Blow some air through the system for about 15 seconds or so. It doesn't need to be very long because there's probably not any water left in there anyway. But if you do it for 15 seconds or so, you should be good. Remove this plug, put the cap back in place, store in utility compartment, and then you clean up this winterization hose, put that back in place, and folks, that should be it.